Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, and buona sera, Lazio world. Welcome to our instant reaction podcast. I'm your host, Shawn McIntosh, here to review Lazio Nice. What a match. 4-1 victory. Again, Lazio pouring in goals in a big match day 2 victory, which sees Lazio top of the Europa League table. I'm at this one alone today as our co-host Caleb Adams just started a new job. For those that don't know, Caleb spent 3 years with myself at Charlotte FC. I left Charlotte to join the Las Vegas Lights about a month and a half ago. Here running a professional soccer club in the second division of U.S. soccer, and Caleb just recently left Charlotte FC to pursue an opportunity outside of soccer. So Caleb is busy with a new job today, despite being a middle of a work week. I thought it important to jump on here to chat with you all about this just fantastic match. So we'll keep this one short. But it was just too much fun not to record an episode. So let's jump right into this one. Just immediately starting with the 11 that Baroni trotted out. One of the things that I am finding quite positive is Baroni's willingness to rotate the squad, and today was no differently. First and foremost, I called for Mandas to start getting some matches. I think all of us thought he would be our cup keeper, and was a little bit disappointed in our first Europa match to not see him, but he came in today starting 11. Pellegrini paired with Marusic. Good to see Pellegrini getting another opportunity. You see that center back pairing of Patrick inserted with Gila, Vecino with Guendouzi, so giving Rovella a bit of a break, though we would see Rovella introduced in the second half. Dele Bashiru gets another start sitting behind Tati, and then your wingers, Pedro, and we'll talk about our old wily veteran Pedro, but gets to start on the wing with Chauna, and Baroni really pulled all the right strings today. Immediately, early in this match, you see a couple crossbars. 12 minutes in, Tati hits the crossbar from a really strong header. And then not but 2 minutes later, 14-minute mark, Vecino, shot deflected, hits the crossbar. You start to wonder if this was just going to be one of those matches where we'd suffer a bit of bad luck. And then Pedro, 20th minute, curls an absolute stunner, showing his class on his day. The old man still has it in him. Finishes just a beautiful shot there. And so puts Lazio up 1-0. 35th minute, you see Tati with just a very clean chip to put Lazio up 2-0. And then 41st minute, just before halftime, Jeremy Boga, who punished Lazio during his time in Serie A, of course, cuts that lead. Baroni with a couple really impactful changes at halftime. You see Rovella on for Dele Bashiru, a switch in formation, switch in tactics. Once started to feel out Nice potentially posing a problem, does really quick to adjust. And then you see the results of that 53rd minute Tati goal, which was checked for offside. A beautiful through ball from Rovella. After a VAR check, it's deemed a good goal. Lazio up. You have Dia coming in for Vecino. Again, a new dynamic player coming onto the pitch. And then Tati once again influencing this match, earning a penalty. I'll be honest, I thought it was a bit of a dive from Tati. I couldn't notice, at least from my replays that I saw, that he was actually clipped, but the pen was awarded. Zaccagni finishes this one off with a nice, strong pen. And look, my 3 words for this one: it's raining goals. And the rain was coming down both literally and figuratively with the goals Lazio was pouring in. And it's now 3 consecutive matches in European play, or just in general, actually, both in Serie A and in Europa, that Lazio has scored 3 or more goals. We didn't see that last season, so quite a shift in play. And look, this team is just a lot more fun to watch than the dreary play that we got accustomed to watching last season. So this was one that sees us again top of that Europa table, puts a ton of confidence both as a side, as a collective unit, and a ton of confidence certainly across the board for individuals. So, my man of the match on the individual front has to be, hard to really anoint anybody other than Tati. Tati came through both with a couple goals, earning the penalty, influential, his work rate, his effort. Those have never been in question. His ability to finish, though, was really what frustrated so many of us last season. And, he's doing that this season. So Tati takes away the man of the match award, and not sure there are any other debate around that, but I thought he was quite strong. I got to give a shout out to Rovella, who comes into this match and immediately influences it. A couple nice balls, wins tackles. We're really seeing Rovella playing at an elite form that we saw prior to his injury last season. So Frank here on YouTube does bring a nice point up, as we start to maybe look at areas where we could get better. But it would be nice if we could keep a clean sheet once in a while. But look, we've talked about this as we evaluated this side going into this season. It was going to be a side that is probably going to give up and concede a lot of goals. But if we can obviously score and continue to provide more and more opportunities, we're seeing a side that shoots a lot more than they did last year. Just a quick run through of the statistics for this match. Surprisingly enough, Nice owned ball possession, 60% to Lazio's 40. Expected goals 1.92 for Lazio to 0.87. Obviously, Lazio far exceeding their expected goal count there. 13 total shots from Lazio. A couple big chances. Obviously they convert their chances. A lot more clinical in this one, but this is a side that produces more and more and more. And so while we want to see the clean sheets, quite frankly, I will take this, and I think we'll all take this version of what we're seeing in terms of style of play, because it's a lot easier on the eyes, and we're currently seeing the results. So we want to see a little bit of our defensive woes cleaned up, but from an attacking standpoint, we've got a lot of guys playing at a very, very high level, and you see it in just really just doesn't matter who comes in. You're seeing high performances from Shawn. You're seeing Pedro now being able to come in and influence matches. You're seeing really strong performances from Guendouzi, and Dia comes in and obviously has been one of the best players in Serie A this season. So a lot of fun, a lot more fun than what we saw last year, regardless of results. But we said it, the results are coming. In terms of a Bidone, I really struggled with this one because I thought by and large, everybody really played at a high level. So, drop in your comments who you would peg as your Bidone. I didn't really get to see a replay of the goal we conceded, on super quick glance. I thought perhaps Patrick was at fault, but I'll say this, the Bidone at the end of the day is the pitch that the players were playing on. That rain obviously, was pretty torrential, and it didn't stop. It didn't concede. But ultimately, that pitch suffered. We know we brought this up before. The pitch at Stadio Olimpico is not one held in high regard. And by the 60th minute or so, it was really, really bad and influenced the play, probably to Lazio's benefit, because it didn't allow for quick movement, didn't really give Nice a chance to attack in a way that would punish us, and kind of stunted their counters, and even when they had space. But my goodness, that pitch was awful. Shout out from Patrick here, for a claim that Dele Bashiru was a potential Bidone candidate. I would agree. I thought Caleb and I were texting a little during the match, and he was quite invisible. He was obviously substituted at halftime. I didn't think his play warranted a halftime substitution. That is typically reserved for abysmal performances. But I thought he was definitely invisible. It didn't affect the match. Certainly not to the level that we've seen from Dele Bashiru. Again, shout out to Baroni for making that quick change because it did ultimately affect the match by inserting Rovella, changing a bit of the tactics, and really stunting any of the momentum that Nice had going into halftime. So, I thought though by and large it was tough to really peg anybody as kind of a really poor performer. This one, I think it really starts to see some consistency now. We've claimed, we've shouted for us to want to see some of this consistency, and now you've got 3 wins in a row across Serie A and Europe. You're seeing the goals come in. You've got a really important fixture ahead against Empoli, a side that really surprisingly sits at 6th in the table ahead of Lazio, tied on points, but they have the tiebreaker there. So this is a really good opportunity against the side we should beat on Sunday to continue that run of form, to continue scoring goals, continue rotating. I think the biggest thing is because of that rotation, you're seeing more players in form because they're actually getting opportunities to play, and it's not going, a month between opportunities. We talked about Pellegrini last year. He would play a match, he'd go 2 months without any game time. So this consistency, I think, is really helping. And I, for one, am a fan of seeing the heavy rotation because you're starting to see more and more players capable of stepping up. Now, as we get a little bit deeper into the season, you might start to see some of the weaknesses when it comes to depth in the midfield, but for now it's producing results. And if we can hang on until January, perhaps we can start to talk about transfer market and where they can support the side on the market. But I know Frank and Patrick really talking a little bit on YouTube about our fullbacks. I thought our fullbacks were fine. There's obviously, as Patrick says, our only acceptable fullback we have is Nuno. Yes, I think there's a very clear gap. I mean, Nuno right now, and I don't care how much of a hot take this is. He's currently the best. He's at least playing the best of any left back in Serie A. I think there's not much of an argument that can be made. That's not to say he is the best left back. You want to see it for a long stretch of time, but hard to pinpoint any player in Serie A that's playing better than Nuno. So I think the gap between him and Pellegrini is obviously going to be wide, but I think Pellegrini is at least showing that he's playable, which, Sarri perhaps seemed to think he wasn't last year. So, but I think, Nuno obviously is a player that needs to rest. He obviously is a player that is running up and down those sidelines during a match. His strength is in attack, and he's got to get a little bit better on defense. But I think for us, it's not as wide of a gap as maybe you would have thought going into the season with Pellegrini. So, I think this side, again, huge match on Sunday, an opportunity to move up the table. The gap between where Lazio sits in 7th and top of the table is only 3 points. But we have a chance to obviously cut into that gap, and those teams are all going to be playing each other. You have some important matches this weekend. I wanted to keep this one short. I thought it was important to give some instant thoughts on this match. 4 goals, my God, it's been a while since we've seen that. So we'll get back to our regularly scheduled program with both Caleb and I as both obviously started new roles, new jobs. So figuring out that midweek match is always tough for us. But on Sunday, we'll be back to it. As always, we appreciate you guys supporting us. Catch our podcast, obviously, on YouTube for that instant reaction. Audio versions are going to be on all of the platforms you get your podcasts on. Tune in, subscribe, shout us out.